All right.
There we go.
I think we're good. Yeah. All right. What's up, Wolfpack Nation? We're here today this week. We got myself, Michael, and Greg here talking some NC State athletics. Starting off with this epic play for K win against Duke last night. So, how many of y'all were at the game? I was at the game.
I was not. Yeah. We gave our tickets away to a breast cancer survivor, so we made sure that
There you go.
they were properly used for the occasion.
Yeah. Hey, absolutely. You want to do that. So let's discuss Isaiah James real quick because
Yeah.
she just turned into an absolute dog, especially in the second half, scoring 36 overall points. I'll look up the stats in a sec, but a few of those were threes, and a lot of those were drives as well. And especially in the second half, in a comeback win, big night for Isaiah James.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, career high. The Blues usually bring out the best in her, right? People usually talk about the Blues being a bad thing, but every time she sees either Carolina or Duke, she seems to go off for career nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was just incredible. Like she was it was 36 points on 19 shots. Like that's crazy, crazy efficient. And
super efficient.
She was just like, yeah, I'm gonna take over this game essentially. Anytime we needed a bucket, it went right to her.
Well, and the crazy thing, if you think about it, she had 0 points in the second quarter.
Well, hardly anybody had points.
Yeah, that second quarter was.
Yeah, we will talk about that.
Yeah, I don't. That might be one of the best games that I've seen in Reynolds though from the women. I don't think it's going to top like the UConn game or the Syracuse game, but it's up there.
I would say though, like as far as like all time in recent memory now, in the last 5 to 7 years, that Louisville game, that comeback against Louisville was right on par with last night, I would say, because I think in that game we were down 14 in the third quarter, maybe late third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't understand how we came back and won that game.
Which one, the Louisville one or last
Louisville
night?
one.
Yeah. Well, it was a classic Westmore defensive special. I just think that, he just does a phenomenal job just motivating his players. And I think last night, right, like for me, it was I know Jimmy V was the, don't give up, but that almost would have fit for the women last night as well. It was just one of those games where they got out to a really good start and then just ice cold in the second quarter, like just ice cold.
Yeah, and 20-0 run. Duke had a 20-0 run, and we beat them.
I think it was more because it was like usually when you see that type of run, it's like a comeback is rare at that point when another team goes on a 20-0 run. But I think because we started the game so well, it's like, okay, we can still just get back to what we were doing then, and then that's kind of what they did, and just slowly crawled their way back into it.
We started the game so well. Kara Lawson had a temper tantrum 5 minutes in.
I think I talked about it in our chat. I was actually surprised that the refs let both coaches kind of get away with it, because Wes had a few moments too where, rightfully so, he kind of lost his stuff. Look, we talk about officiating, and you never want to really talk about it as the reason, a game goes one way or the other. But I really felt in the women's game, it's a struggle bus every time I watch a women's basketball game, just from an officiating standpoint. And you hate to put it on the Zebras, but I mean, they are getting paid. And there was so many and ones that were not called. And Kara Lawson, after the game, kind of talked about the officiating, on the negative. It was kind of she didn't really get into it, but you could read between the lines where she was going with it. I don't know. I don't know.
There was that one Isaiah James, her double dribble, like that was so blatantly obvious. I don't know how. I think the ref was behind her, so he didn't really see her pick it up. But it was so obvious.
Yeah, it was pretty blatant. But again, like how many times did I'm blanking. Zoe Brooks go to the basket and she was hacked. I mean, she was hacked on so many occasions. Same with Isaiah. Like there was one where she literally like that long. It was actually the long fast break from.
Oh, your mic went out.
Greg, your mic's out.
We'll just have to see him act it out. I know what he's saying though. It was definitely like, I mean, when Duke was clearly the more physical team all night, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Especially, I feel like especially on the inside. I mean, shout out to Tilda, but I mean, she still is a freshman. She still is figuring out that groove, especially like playing basketball in America is very different from playing in Sweden. And so I feel like she's still learning. Shout out to Lorena Owu, though. I think she stepped up big in the fourth quarter in some big moments last night.
Yeah, no, and that's like, I think that's kind of, you're gonna see the two of them go back and forth depending on the matchup in the game, because like you said, Tilda is like, she's not as physical down low, and when you play a team like Duke, who is, it was a better matchup for Owu, especially at the end of the game, and she made some big plays, got some big offensive rebounds, had a couple and ones, like, yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah, other big players, Zoe Brooks and Sanaya obviously did their thing. Not as impressive as Isaiah, not nearly.
Yeah.
But Zoe had 15 points. Sanaya had 13. Still contributed greatly to the game. And then I think those were the big ones. Zam Jones got some minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big star was definitely Isaiah James.
Yeah, and going back to that second quarter a little bit, it's like there's just not I think this team is slightly, like, their upside is slightly capped just because the bench is not as deep as it has been, and you kind of saw that in that second quarter. West put I think he's put 4 bench guys in.
Yeah.
Played Cox and Collier at the same time, and that was just kind of a disaster. That was when Duke went on the run, and
absolutely no disrespect to those players, but
no, it just doesn't. It's not as efficient of a lineup.
Yeah, I feel like if you're gonna play underclassmen, you have to play them with a lot of experienced players. Like I think Zoe is probably the best example because she's playing with Sanaya, with Isaiah, and with Madison Hayes. And so Zoe's probably the best example from that.
Yeah, you guys were just talking. I think you guys were talking about the second unit, and it was pretty rough. And that was when, to your point, they went on that run. And I was honestly surprised West let him go as long as he did before he called the timeout.
I was screaming. I was in the student section. I was screaming at West to call a timeout.
Yeah. It was I probably would have done it at about the 11-0 run, 13-0 run, and he didn't. I don't think he called it until the actual, I think it was 17-0 at that point when he finally did call it. And that was that unit was rough. It just everything just fell apart. You give credit to Duke. They picked up their intensity. They saw, there was a chance there with that unit, and they made them pay. There was a lot of unforced errors last night too, and Duke's defense is good enough. You don't need to help them. And I thought we struggled. Probably 4 or 5 at least, just errant passes that the defense had nothing to do with, just lack of focus and attention. So the fact that they were able to overcome some of those things, I don't know what the final turnover number was, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was less than 12.
Yeah, it's like you can't. Well, I guess we could afford to do that last night, but going forward, you can't afford unforced turnovers. Those are the most frustrating, I think, to everybody, right? Because it's just like you're just beating yourself at that point.
Yeah. I think the only saving grace was that you threw them out of bounds, and so they didn't get fast break points off of them. I think that's really the only thing that you could say positive about those things. But I will say I actually want to kind of pull up the numbers here real quick.
15 turnovers to their 11.
Yeah, but I thought Duke shot the lights out from 3 too. Like they were really good. It felt like every time you would see us get to like, especially in the fourth quarter, like 5-6 points, it'd be like 3-pointer. And then, but we did a nice job matching for the most part, I thought, in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Ashland Jackson was 6 of 14 from 3.
Yeah.
And then
that's dang near 50% right there.
Mayer was 4 of 5 from 3. It was really just those two. Only one other player hit a 3 for them. So it was those two that they were just on fire.
Yeah.
Duke's number 10 for a reason.
Yeah.
I was I like following Tucker Blankenship, and she shared the current bracketology for the women, and we're sitting on a 4 line right now, which that gets you 2 home games, assuming you win the first one, but then that puts you on that 4 seed, gets you a number 1 in the Sweet 16, right? Is that right?
That might
Elite
be
8.
South Carolina.
That would be Elite 8.
UCLA.
That would be Elite 8, right? Because is that right?
No, 1 seeds play 4 seeds in the Sweet 16.
That's right. That's right. See, math hard. It's been a long day, but so you don't want to be on that 4 seed. I would argue you would want to be the 5 seed. That way you still get the two home games.
3 seed.
No. What I'm saying, 1,000% you would want to be the 3 seed. But I'm saying the 5 would still play the 1.
Because
right?
5 you don't host. The 5 you don't.
Yeah,
host.
5 you don't host, and you also have to play the 1.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. It's kind of different in women's versus men's because of that hosting aspect. Like being a 4 seed is a much bigger advantage than being a 5 seed versus the men's, where it's like, okay, it doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah. To that point, you want to be off the 5 line. You'd rather be on the 4 line. And ultimately, to your point, Carson, you'd want to be on the 3 line because then you avoid the 1 seed in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, you get to play the 1 seed when you have momentum in the Elite 8.
Yeah, and preferably not on their home court, but we won't talk about that tonight. Still not bitter about that one.
No,
I think State definitely has a chance. There are 4 right now. I think there's definitely a path to a 1 seed. Just with the way the schedule lines up.
There's definitely plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, I think the way in my opinion, and you guys maybe tell me what you think. I think the only way you get to a 1 is if you win the ACC tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of games left, so it's hard to say. Like
there is. Combinations matter.
Yeah, like if State.
If you go beat Notre Dame twice,
right. You're definitely 1 seed. If you maybe split with them, you're probably. I think if you split with them, you're probably still 1 seed. If they beat you twice, like in the regular season and then in the ACC tournament or something, then you're probably
and as weird as it sounds, it matters more if you beat them in the ACC tournament than you do in the regular season. And the reason I say that is you have them at home, so you don't get that. It's still a quad 1 game, but it's not. It's not as fancy, right? Because when you beat them on a neutral court, that just feels like it means more. Even in a tournament situation. But there's still, we talked about it probably 2 or 3 streams ago that February was the gauntlet, right? And so that was the first one last night with Duke being the number 10 team in the country, and Florida State. When we had this conversation, Florida State wasn't ranked, and now they are. I think they're 22 in the country. So you still have, Florida State. You still have, Miami's not ranked, but they beat us last year, so you're not going to take that for granted. Again, different team, but we did struggle with them last year. And then you have Georgia Tech, you have Carolina, you have Notre Dame, like we've already just said, and I think there's one more.
I think Wake.
I think that's it.
Wake.
Yeah, no, Wake's terrible.
Yeah,
we end with them by 30.
Wake and SMU.
Wake and then at SMU,
yeah. We should have beat Wake by 30, but we let them get back in the game. With the second unit. Again, the second unit, that game was a little closer than it needed to be, but it was still never in doubt. Yeah, and then we haven't played SMU, but they're.
I think they're kind of just middle of the road. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So it'll be fun. like you said, I think there's definitely a way to get, I think 3-4 is the floor of this team. I think, in my opinion, 2, I think 2 is the ceiling. I really do. Just because there's going to be a couple losses, and I would love to run the table from here, but ACC is just too damn good to run the table at this point. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
I mean, if you run the table, finish 17-1, you're
you're playing for because you're going to play at least 2. You'll play at least 2 ranked opponents, most likely in the ACC tournament as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just more to your resume. At least it's more positive than the other team. Do we have to talk about them tonight, by the way?
Clemson game. We had a home game.
I drove.
Lost by 10.
Yeah, we lost by 10, but it did feel a little closer than 10. It kind of got away in the last couple of minutes. Just can't shoot the ball. 36, I think it was 36% we shot in that game. 36%.
And the thing is, they shot really well against Duke the game beforehand.
Well, you get 5% for putting your name on the paper. So, like, it's just frustrating, man.
You can't shoot, and the rotations. You're not playing. Keats is trying to find
the magic
that work, and it's just too late at this point. Like, just pick some guys to go with them, and just through the good or the bad, because in more times it'll be good.
Yeah, it's funny because the magic happened last year when he did insert O'Connell into the starting lineup, right? And that it kind of became once Parker, not Trey. What's
Dennis?
Dennis, thank you. Sorry. Once Dennis was out with his illness, that kind of just by necessity changed the rotation, and it worked, right? I don't think it was.
You went through. It was the same rotation, like through the end of the season, like because MJ Rice was out, and then Parker went out, so it was kind of like you were forced into it because you only had that many of eight or so available players.
And you had all the guys finally found their role, right? Horn was the outside shooter. Burns was the inside guy. O'Connell was the passer. Diarra was the rebounder. Like everyone found their role at that time.
Ben just slotted in when needed, right?
But it took some time because you lost 6 of the last 8 regular season games, so it's not like in the last 4 straight, and it was the same lineup, same 8 guys or whatever. I don't think. I mean, this team this year doesn't have the same level of talent, I don't think, as those guys. But there's something to be said at this point, just to pick a group and go with them, and see if you can do something.
I like how we saw the freshmen play this past week, though. I mean, Trey Parker was a dog during the Duke game. Paul McNeil had a couple good moments. Dennis Parker had a couple good moments. So I liked how we've seen them play a little bit, get some minutes, get their feet wet.
I thought Styles had a great week. I mean, he got the raw end of the deal against Duke. So the first half he doesn't foul, which is okay, but then the second half he just fouls. But he had a really good game, and then he had a fever on Saturday, a significant fever, and he went out and dropped 24, and then the rest of the team combined for 32, which, again, it just head scratching. And to your point, Carson McNeil comes in, hits 2 threes in the Clemson game, and then you don't really see him for the rest of the game. Go ahead.
As good as Trey was against Duke, I mean, he was pretty
average,
pretty poor against Clemson. Let me see.
I think it was 0 for 4 from 3.
Yeah,
but that's so therein lies the rub, that you have these young guys. The consistency is just not going to be there, so you have to expect that there's going to be ups and downs with those guys. And the question becomes, okay, how long do you ride with them to find their footing in a particular game. And it seems, especially this year, it feels like Keats has a shorter leash on people just because I think you can see his frustration boil over on the sidelines, and he's like, just get that guy out and get the next guy in.
I know, and I think that's just disrupting any type of rhythm for anybody, really.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And so sometimes just let these guys play through it. Again, you can't. And we're not coach.
Whoever it is, like
I've seen him do it with everybody.
If it's your starting five, like play them 35 minutes a game, 40 minutes a game, or if you want to go with the freshmen, then swap some of these guys out because there are a lot of seniors that aren't going to be here next year.
Right. So I was getting ready to ask that question. Like, what do you do at this point? Do you play the young guys? Because at this point, you need to evaluate talent. I feel like, and I feel like it's really, and I told myself I didn't want to talk about this team, but because it's I know we have an hour to fill, but if you're a fan, let me ask it. Let me come at this angle. If you're a fan, are you mad at this point if he plays the young guys? If he goes all in on the young guys, are you mad?
No, let them get their feet wet. Let them get experience.
I don't know. I feel like it can't be worse than what this 6-7 game losing streak we're on. Yeah. But you've been so close in all these games, most games. So
we haven't won a conference game in like almost 2 months.
We won one game in the month of January, and it was by 1 point.
Dame. Yeah.
Sorry, month and a half. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean.
I don't know. I think there's enough upside with them that.
Because here's my thing. One, there's no guarantee that these guys come back whether you play them or not, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it hurts your case to keep them if you play them now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but then at that point you're just like the season, like you're banking on another miracle run at this point, but you're still only halfway through. Like, you can still salvage the season and at least try and claw your way back to 500.
To an NIT?
It's better than not making the ACC tournament.
CMT, CBT, whatever that third-rate tournament is.
I think that's another factor, though, that like not everybody makes the ACC tournament now. So I think that's still something worth playing for.
Newsflash, we're not even in that position right now.
We wouldn't make it right now.
We wouldn't make it if it was today.
I think playing the freshman does not give you the best chance to win right now.
Okay, so you're still okay. And I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer here. No. There's just different philosophies to it. I think at the end of the day, who was that? Herm Edwards. You play the game to win, right? And I think, So, but I also think that because we saw, what was it? The game that they we put those guys in. It was the SMU game where we put those young guys in, and they called back into the game, and then they went right to the bench. Mm-hmm. And then you never saw them again, and then SMU goes on a little run and wins that game. So there's definitely talent there. What? I don't know. And maybe, again, I'm not saying this is a great thought, but it is a thought. Why don't you just go put them out there to send a message to your other guys?
Yeah. I wouldn't go all in on playing them until you're like actually mathematically eliminated from the ACC tournament, which probably
next
won't
week
be until the end. No,
I know there's still got 10
ACC games, so and there's some bad teams in the ACC.
There is.
We play them: Miami, Boston College, Georgia Tech. We play all three.
I think Miami's a win, but I can't be sure. I can't be sure with this team.
I think that's the only game you might be favored. Oh, I think you'll be favored maybe in the Boston College game just because it's a home game. Miami is on the road, so there's no guarantee that you're a favorite in that game just because it's a road game. But to the point, so looking at the standings here, We still have a game against Boston College, which is a must-win at this point. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Miami is a must-win at this point. You have Syracuse, Georgia Tech. You still have a game with Cal, so you could potentially split there. But if you don't have a tiebreaker against Virginia. They have the tiebreaker over you. So that's a real problem. So you have to get above Boston College and Virginia if you're talking the bottom three.
And you're going to need help to get over
Miami,
Virginia.
Boston College. I think Georgia Tech is probably.
So if you only beat Boston College, that puts you above, and assuming Boston College wins no more, that still puts you in the bottom three. You're still out. So you're going to need to go beat Georgia Tech and Syracuse, and then to your point, Carson,
on this road trip out to California, whether that's Cal or Stanford, we probably got to get one of them.
Yeah, Stanford's 7-4, so I don't see that one necessarily being a thing. I mean, they are beatable. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Cal, you played close to, so that would potentially be somewhere where you can look at getting one. But
it's just
there's not a lot left.
Not a lot.
No.
So what do you give me the magic number to get out of the not playing in the ACC tournament? What are you going to get to? 5 wins at least?
Miami, BC, Georgia Tech.
You got to win 3, 4.
I would feel okay, which is this is so sad. We're debating.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel okay if we got to 7 and 13, that we would not be in the bottom 3.
Yeah, so you're winning. So you have to win 5 of the last. How many? How many we got left?
Yeah.
5 of the last. Then you go 500.
But that's like to feel safe. I think if you get 4, you get to 6 and 14
with the right combos, right? With the right combinations.
I feel like with the right combos, 6 and 14 is very doable.
Sick.
From your defending ACC champions.
Yes, the defending ACC champions are fighting to get into the ACC tournament.
I saw somebody say you can't beat the defending champs if they don't have a chance to defend it. So next year we're still defending.
That's where you need that guy with the meme where he's pointing to his head. You know, that black guy meme where he's like, "I've outthought you. I outthought you." That's hilarious, but sad at the same time. Did anyone see? So there was a couple out there. Wolfpack Stats had a good one the other day. I know we don't have tweets of the week, but I also feel we can talk about a few of these ones because it was. I think there's value in talking about it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, so here it is. ACC regular season lost 8 of 10, 12 of 14. 15 of 19, 18 of 24. That's dating back to last season.
All the way back, yeah.
9-game magical run.
Not good. Hey, those banners up there forever.
Right, they can't take that away unless they find some kind of allegation, which God forbid.
Yeah,
that would be.
That would be the cherry on top, the proverbial cherry on top. So how do we feel about this?
Not great
about that stat. I mean, how do you? I mean, just putting it into context, right? Like, it's hard to defend 18 of your last 24 losses.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not the most comparable, but I think it's almost similar to the NFL, in the sense of like not necessarily NCAA, but ACC. Like this is almost like the defending Super Bowl champions returning a couple guys and not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
No, it's the same thing.
Yeah. There's
I don't know.
Yeah, you've seen it. You've seen it to that point, like where a team will not necessarily win the Super Bowl, but make it to the Super Bowl, and then won't make the playoffs the next year. I think the Oakland Raiders was that example when they lost to the Bucs in a Super Bowl years and years ago. There is precedent for it. It's just insane to think it, though.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to go back that far. I mean, Miami made the Final Four in 2020?
Good point.
And then they were terrible last year.
Yeah, so they bought that team.
Yeah.
Everything's like Yeah. I mean, everything's year to year, and
it's so fluid, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's Keats gets a kind of a pass for this year because of last year, and then
for sure.
he's back on the hot seat next year.
I don't see how he's not.
Yeah, but like I'm also not like, oh, next year is definitely going to be a repeat of this year because you're going to have a whole new team. Like it just depends on the portal every year now. So I don't know.
Yep. And I'm kind of talking. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I'm tired of sounding like a broken record about it. Like, the assignment. You know that with the limited NIL that we're putting into it right now, that every dollar counts for evaluation purposes. To the point. You've brought some guys in, like Mike James hasn't been able to play this year because of injury, and I know that's a little fluky, and that's something that you won't expect to happen every year. But that's a key cog. And so you would have liked to have gotten the guy that went to Xavier, who we were, rumored to be involved in. Yeah. And then you get guys that just don't pan out, guys that don't take the next step. Is it a chemistry fit? Is it a scheme fit? Like what at the end of the day, it all falls back on the coach, right? Because he's the one, pulling these guys in and then coaching them up and running plays and doing all this other stuff, making key decisions. But it just every year you're just going to have massive roster turnover, just like we talked about in our baseball preview. 50% roster turnover for the baseball team the last 2 years. 50%. I think basketball you're going to be somewhere around that number. Just because it's so small of a squad. It only takes 3 guys and you're already at 30-40% right there. So go ahead.
Yeah. And that's regardless of coach too. Like that's just the new
normal.
Yeah.
That's a term that came post-COVID too. New normal. The new normal. The key is to just try to find guys, and we've kind of talked about it. Get guys that you can bring in, a couple of high school kids, right? Keep them in the program, and then just supplement off of that every couple of years, right? You bring in a guy that has at least 2 years. Ideally, you want to bring in a transfer that has at least 2 years. That way, you can then develop them into your system, roll them in, make them fit. Like DJ Burns is the perfect example of what you want every year. I mean, he is the model of what you want from a transfer, and that you can build around. Because again, he's a build around piece because of the way Keats runs his system. Like I feel like if you have, it's almost like Wes, right? With a 1 in 4 out. I think kind of the same thing where until something changes, Keats is always going to be a guard oriented coach. But to the point, if you're a guard oriented coach, go find shooters.
Yeah. And you just got to hit on with a limited NIL budget. Limited is all relative, but limited compared to, if you're comparing ourselves to Duke and UNC, like it's not even close. Our budget is not even close to them, and that's kind of where we want to be, competing at the top of the conference. And it's just you have to be perfect on those evaluations. You can't have any injuries like Mike James, and it was a little bit of everything this year. But
and I think last year, I think you can say everything about last year was an outlier, right? You were very successful with a limited NIL budget. Go ahead. I think you go ahead.
Well, I think that also, I mean, it's good and it's bad at the same time, because I think it did get initial bigger kind of boosted donations after the run and everything, but at the same time,
but not as much as you think.
Not as much as
we had about 1.5 last year, and I think we're just a shade over 2, so not as much as you would hope.
But that's the thing. Like it's like why I say it's also bad. It's because he just did that with a limited NIL budget, just do it again. And
But again,
like, why do I need to donate? It's like, yeah.
But you can't. I think to the point that you're alluding to and making is like you can't live in that area and expect to be successful. Like,
yes, correct.
You can be successful, but that's not where you want to be successful.
Right. You have no room for error. Like,
right.
Or you can. I was like, UNC has like probably triple our budget.
Oh, and yeah. I would say at least they have $4 to $5 million.
And they didn't spend it like they don't have a big man at all. They didn't spend it very great either, but because they have so much, they're able to get those really talented guys. They got
higher value,
and they're still in the hunt for, I mean, an at-large bid. I mean, it's not great for them, but like,
the only thing that's saving them is
more money. Your margin of error is bigger. That's what's kind of the point. You can miss on some guys, but as long as you get enough people.
Yeah. And I think to the point too, and Carson, I want to bring you in here in a second. I think, one, you have the Carolina brand, so that's already in their favor. They've played a really tough schedule, so I'll give them that much. So even with the losses,
their non-conference was
no joke. Yeah. It was, a lot of neutral site games, a lot of high-profile teams that they were playing. Very smart scheduling. And that's the only thing that's kind of saving them at this point. But now they have to go win games because now their margin of error, because the ACC is so weak. By the way, is Clemson ranked yet? Like, I haven't seen this week's ranking.
They should be, but they're not.
That's insane to think about. Like, it's a good team. Like, Clemson's a good team. I think they're 18-4 now, something like that.
Yeah. You know what's interesting as well, because now that Hamilton is stepping down, the longest tenured coaches in ACC football are Dorn and Dabo, and now the longest tenured ACC coaches in basketball are Keats and Brownell.
That is weird.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
Something else about our men's basketball team. What has happened to Breon Pass? Why isn't he getting much playing time?
Yeah, you get your Breon Pass cameo, and then he's right back to the bench. It feels like. It was interesting that he was running the lineup he ran against Clemson, where you had both O'Connell and Pass out there at the same time.
That's the kind of thing that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and that's it just.
I think Pass is just he's kind of a liability on defense, and that like he can shoot three, but he's limited outside.
But no offense to Mike O'Connell, but he's kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Again, here's the thing: if you're shooting the ball, if you're putting, it's completely flawed roster. But the thing that you can overcome and kind of deal with is like, because you could say this about DJ Burns last year. Great offensive player, really good offensive player, but he struggled at times on the defensive side, right? Whether it was his footwork,
fast breaks.
Yeah, whether it was his footwork down low, just he was not a huge liability, but there was some liability there. But what he gave you on the offside, you can deal with it. You could be like, okay, well, if he gives me 25 and his player only gives up, if the guy he's guarding only gets 20, well, that's still a +5 net gain. I can deal with that. But when you don't have shooters and guys that can score the basket with consistency, you gotta bring something to the table.
Yeah,
it's tough.
I mean, it's kind of the opposite of the team from 2 years ago, where you have Terquavian and Jarkel. If Terquavian had an off night, Jarkel would usually step up and still be able to get some shots in, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Last year we didn't really have that because our main shooter was mainly just DJ Horn.
Right.
But you need to have two big shooters that you can lean on the outside.
Yeah.
By the way, I was talking to one of my guys when we were out in the Kansas trip. It's still hard to believe that your all-time leading three-point shooter in one season, made baskets wise, is DJ Horn. To me, that's still an insane thing to think about, that he is the record holder for the most threes in one season.
Yeah. I think that's just
volume. Yeah, he didn't shoot it at the highest level. Yeah. He
9 extra games, right?
Right. Plus you had some extra games, and there were some factors, but if you were to, if in 5 years, if you were to ask that trivia question to somebody, they would probably not say DJ Horn unless they were, really,
Yeah.
So, but to the point is, you at least had someone that could make them on the regular, and I think Styles has done a pretty good job the last couple of games knocking down threes. Yeah, he's definitely given us more than the first previous, but sometimes it's just finding the guy. Like, it's just
he's not the best at creating. Is it like DJ Horn could be on the ball and pull up for three, and that was most of his playing.
Yeah, Styles is
set up a lot more.
Yeah, Styles is more of a catch and shoot kind of guy.
Yeah.
Whereas like you said, Horn will dribble off, and then pull it back, or
man, that whatever play, that little play they would run 20 times a game. Little dribble handoff. Horn could either turn the corner around the big man, or just like take a little step back for three, and it was unstoppable.
Yeah, it was nice. But that's the thing, right? I don't think we're giving our guys the ability to be successful at times. Like it feels like, and even when we make the extra pass, because we're not a great shooting team, I would love to know how many wide open threes we've missed this year. Like what that number looks like, because it feels like, man, every time it's like you get that nice pass, you're like, everyone puts their hands up in the air like they're gonna make it, and then you just kind of go, okay,
brick.
Cool.
Yeah. There's enough. I think this team should be better than it is, but at the same time, it's like at best, I think this is a 500 ACC team, which is not great anyways. But anyways, we can
move on from this. Yeah, I think we've beaten this horse enough.
Proud of the pride they're playing, though. You can't tell me that they're not playing hard.
Yeah, they play hard every single game. That's never really an issue with Keats' team. You always get them play hard. They're just
I think that's again, Keats is not going anywhere. His job is safe, but to the fact that he hasn't lost a locker room, right? That the guys still fight. They're still listening, and you can when you watch a game, if you sit and just watch the huddle when he's talking to people, like they're still locked in and focused. Yeah, you can 100% tell. It's not a lack of effort on this team. It's not a lack of attitude. Like, it's just not happening. Like, it's just not working this year. And it's a shame, because these guys work their asses off. And they come to play. They come to play every game. We've been in, like, I would like, Michael, you had that
Wake.
one. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Clemson and Wake, I think, and Duke, but that one was closer than a 10-point game, really.
Oh, the Duke one? Yeah, it was way close. Yeah, they hit free throws at the end. I don't. Yeah. The
like,
score doesn't always.
Have been one possession games.
Yeah, and we just kind of fell apart the last 4 minutes of the Clemson game, where that would have been another single digit game. But I would be curious, Michael. I know you've pulled it up before, like the hard luck. Like, what is that stat or that percent? What is that one you like? I know you've talked about it before.
Ken Palm has a luck
That's
rating.
what it is. Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't checked it in a while though.
Yeah, but
early in the season, after some of those close losses, I mean, we were unlucky, but
yeah, I still feel like there's a luck factor, because again, what do we have? Like, I think it was like four out of like 5 or 6 games it was like one possession, and so. Again, we've said it, like, you go make a play on either side of the court, you're winning those games. And I think that's the frustrating thing. And again, I think if you just win, like, by the way, I don't think we've won back-to-back games all year, or did we early in the season with?
I mean, early,
but not conference games,
not in 2025.
Yeah, there you go. But again, I think if you could just find like a way to just win a game or two, right? Just get on a winning streak, and then that just brings confidence to the court every night, to the arena. Yeah. I some of that's just it's, I don't know.
Currently, we're 11th worst in Ken Palm's luck rating, which essentially means it looks at your efficiency per game, and like it assigns, like, against an average D1 team, would you be expected to win this game with these efficiency numbers, and then kind of bases off of that. So it's like, it's saying we're playing better than our record indicates, which, doesn't mean you flip 2-8 to 8-2, but
Right.
instead of 2-8, could we be 5-5, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So-
You're on the better side of that. Like you're gonna get a couple more W's. Again, that just goes back to the way the team plays. Like just I feel really bad for them. I respect the hell out of what they're doing. I just, by the way, tomorrow we play at 11 p.m. Eastern. How many Wolfpack fans do you think are going to watch that game?
I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Are you really going to watch it?
Yeah.
All right. I want a text then. I want a halftime text. I don't know. I'll probably be up. I'm a glutton. Every time I say I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to, I'm freaking right there. I don't know. Carson, let's talk about something else for a few minutes.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Let's talk about the football schedule, which dropped last week, the full schedule.
Oh, man. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about it. When
They may win more ACC games than basketball.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was so bad.
Maybe.
But
they play 20 of them. Basketball does.
Last live stream, we knew the dates for Virginia Tech, Duke, Wake, ECU, Virginia, and Campbell, but now we got the rest of the season from Notre Dame onward. So we got Notre Dame in the middle of October. What do y'all think of that?
That's gonna be a tough one. But it's also like at Notre Dame, I expect they'll be they're off a national championship. Like I've had that one as an L for a long time. But it's like it's the seventh game of 7 straight weeks before a bye.
Mm-hmm.
I really have no expectations of going to South Bend and winning that game, but who sees? We'll see.
I'm planning on still going just because.
You going?
How many times do you have? How many opportunities are you going to have to see your team play in South Bend?
Well, so far just one.
Yeah.
Once every 5 years or so.
Yeah, more than that. It's been like
8
years. Yeah, 8 years. Yeah, we were there in 2017. Yeah, I'll be there. What game of the season is that? Who comes next after Notre Dame?
At Pitt.
Okay.
Well, we have a bye and then at Pitt.
Yeah.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the state fair.
Yeah. And then I think after Pitt we have Georgia Tech. Is that right?
Georgia Tech at home. And then a trip to Coral Gables, take on the Hurricane. Oh wait, no. It's a bye. And then a trip to Coral Gables.
I'll be at that one for sure.
Yeah, I'll be there. So fun. So at the Georgia Tech game, that will mark 50 in a row for me.
Ooh.
So we'll hit 50 there, and then we'll finish the year out, and then we'll self-evaluate, or excuse me, wife will evaluate. It's really hard, obviously, to talk about what we expect. There's so many things that is going to happen between now and then. I do like three non-traditional games this year, right? Non-Saturday games. We have 2 Thursdays and a Friday.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that yet. The Florida State game's on a Friday night. The last game. We don't see us get Friday night games in November.
No, we had a Friday one. We played, I think it was Virginia 2 years ago.
And we played
Friday.
Louisville, but that was way early on. This is the second to last week of the season, and we have a Friday night game. That just feels very random.
I think with the expanded teams, they're spreading out the games more. They got more slots to fill, and I think it's going to be more normal going.
It's all about that. I mean, you look at it from a holistic college perspective. Like you have games pretty much every damn night of the week because you have that MAC action like on Wednesdays or Tuesdays or like there's just random games throughout the week, and it's kind of fun.
I can hear
when you're married, it's not as much fun because they don't always let you watch the college football, so you kind of have to go like. But I love it.
As a fan watching, I like the weeknight games because then on Saturdays you can just watch the rest of the football.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks for tailgating and stuff. I get that people tailgating.
It does for me, especially because I have to take multiple days off because just having to travel down. But to your point, I do like then having my weekend back. So I'm okay putting in the work in the middle of the week and then have my weekend. But I don't. So we have typically the last couple of years we've had 3 in a row at home. We don't have that this year. That was one of the things that I picked up off of the. And the only reason I picked those things up is because of my travel. So I was like, oh God, 3 weeks in a row down to Raleigh. But so we don't have any of those. We end up the last 2 at home. I don't have it. I don't have the schedule in front of me right now.
It's Florida State and Carolina.
Yeah. So the last 2 are at home, where last year the last 2 were on the road with Georgia Tech and Carolina.
I can already hear the Florida State fans being like, we got to play a night game in Raleigh. This ain't good.
Yeah, that's true. They've always struggled against us at night.
Yeah.
That could be, that could be
it. I think there's advantages and disadvantages to playing some of these guys, these quote unquote tougher games later in the season, just because you have potential for injuries on both sides. So, that may help you or that may hurt you, but that seems to always be a thing.
I mean, 2 years ago, we had Clemson, Miami, UNC all later in the season.
Yeah, that was the Brendan Armstrong year that we ran through all that. No Clemson on the schedule. That's one thing. We won't play Clemson for like another 4 or 5 years.
That's so weird to me. Because Clemson's our like big out of state rival. It's like them. If we played Virginia Tech more in football, I think that would be considered a rivalry as well.
Just because the programs are very similar.
Well, two very similar schools, and they're on border states. It would be basically like the Textile Bowl, but the other way. But we do play Florida State. Florida State, I wouldn't say it feels like a rivalry. It just more feels like just this fun game that both fan bases always look forward to.
Yeah. Wake Forest on a Thursday night. So there was your other Thursday game.
Yeah.
That's the first ACC game of the season too, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I'll be there. I'll be at every game aside from Miami and Pitt.
So you don't leave the state of North Carolina until what, week 7 or 8? Is that what it is?
I think week 7 when we go to Notre Dame. Yeah.
Yeah.
Notre Dame. Yeah.
So there's that.
So a couple things on how this sets up. Just looking at it, just kind of face value is you get your quote unquote easier games in the first 6 games, which I think could really be kind of play into our hands.
Confidence builder, right?
Yeah.
See, now we say easier games, but we lost to ECU, Wake, and Duke last year.
Yeah, but
but historically,
I get it. Yeah, like what would you say is an easier game, ECU or Notre Dame? It's like
right, and we have Virginia.
I get it. We just lost to them, but yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, Virginia.
So Virginia non-conference game, so it's definitely harder.
That's wild too, right? Like,
out of all the non-conference games we could have picked, like Virginia.
Easy. Logistically, it's easy.
This was the one we swapped. We were supposed to be at App State, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then they go to us and they're like, "Hey, you can't play 3 North Carolina non-conference teams."
Right. We have Campbell the next year. Is that right?
We have Campbell this year.
I meant sorry.
Yeah. We have App next year at home.
Yeah. I think it was
allegedly
they wanted to get away from the road G5 games just because those are.
But then it becomes really hard to schedule them because they want a return trip. They want to sell. Granted, football kind of sells itself, but they want to bring a good opponent into their venue. And so I remember when we had some of these series like with Morsell and Old Dominion, it's a 2-for-1. So you play a 3-game series and that was the way you got them to come back to your venue was you had to sign up for 3. I like those types of things. Even if it's a group of 5 on the road, it's still a road test. I mean, it's you're still going in. Yeah.
But it doesn't generate as much revenue for the ACC.
Right, because they're trying to sell ads. They're trying to sell ads on TV, and that's going to end up on ACC Extreme streaming platform.
I think I'm looking at the future schedule. I think we've got 2028. We have a trip at Troy. We haven't played we played them years
a
ago.
long time ago.
Probably still part of that deal.
Yeah, that was I remember that year. That was like 2015 or 16.
I think it was Jacoby's last year. Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
And then 20.
Wasn't that the one where we knocked the guy's head off, or was that Eastern Kentucky? Remember that? Like where we got not.
Yeah, who was that? Was that Travis Wright or was that Nate Irving?
No, it was not a Nate Irving game. This was like 2015, so he was already long gone by then. I want to say Wright. I want to say it was maybe him, but I feel like it wasn't. Maybe because it was the same color scheme, so I can't remember if it was Eastern Kentucky or Troy because their colors are basically the same.
Yeah, like that, like the dark red and black.
The maroon, yeah, it's like a maroonish color, yeah. But yeah, I think you know we have South Florida on the schedule in a few years. It'd be interesting to see if that sticks.
2029.
Yeah.
I think because South Florida is they're not in a power conference, but they're basically a power league team.
Well, it's ECU. I mean, it's the American as of now. I mean, who knows what?
I would think of South Florida as basically like a UConn.
Well, yeah, I mean they're basically the same. UConn was in that conference.
Yeah.
I don't.
The Big East, UConn, the old Big East.
Well, old Big East, and then UConn I thought was in the American for a season or two for football.
I think they're independent.
Yeah,
now,
they're independent now.
Yeah, because they're in the Big East for basketball.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah. So back to. Go ahead.
The other thing with the way the buys shape up, I think State has a really big rest advantage over some of these teams. Like you've got the bye before Pitt, you've got a bye before Miami, and like even Florida State, you play that Friday night, you get an extra day before UNC.
Yeah.
And then same thing with Duke, you play Thursday night against Wake, so you have two extra days. So I think that could really be beneficial.
You know what I just realized? Have we not played Pitt and Carter Finley since they've joined the ACC?
We have not. I think I read that somewhere too. Yeah, we've only played them like twice and it's both been in Pittsburgh.
So we played Stanford as an ACC team before we played Pitt as an ACC team at home.
Yeah, and Pitt's been in the league a lot longer. Yeah, and those two trips to Pitt. But yeah, so we played Pitt at Pitt. We're at Pitt again this year, so we still haven't played them at home.
That's on my birthday this year.
Is it? 25th. I know Leighton. Yeah. I know Leighton and Ashland are going to be up at Pitt. Yeah, Pitt's one of those like I've only been up to Pitt once, and that was the Naeem Hines. Like he went off for like 2 long touchdowns on like basically back to back. I think it was a punt and then a run back, or excuse me, as a running back. But not really impressed with their fans for as crappy as a school they've been. Their fans suck. So yeah, what's your most intriguing game? Just looking at the schedule, like what's the one that you're like taking away Carolina? Like Carolina doesn't care.
Florida State. Florida State is either going to be what they were last year or they're going to be what they were 2 years ago. I don't think there's any in between.
Oh gosh, my phone. It's kind of hard to pick a game kind of in the second half of the season for me because you don't know who's going to be good. Are we going to be good? Are we going to be bad? But I think in the first, like if you just look at the first 6 weeks, I mean, I think opening against East Carolina, I think that's going to be big. That's going to be big.
It will be. I think that's going to make or break a lot of fans. As crazy as that is to say in the first game because of what happened in the bowl game and that you've had at that point, you'll have had like 7-8 months to prepare for that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no excuse to come out and whoop their ass at home.
Especially since you have 10 times the economic resources of ECU.
Yeah, everything.
If you lose to them twice in a row, you're going to have a lot of fans tuning out immediately.
Yeah, a bowl game loss is a little bit more easier to swallow. That's a pill that's easier to swallow just because of the way bowl games are reviewed at this point. Again, you go out and you want to win every game. But that being said,
some of your best players don't play.
Yeah. But opening game, everyone's hyped, everyone's fresh. There's not a lot of excuses to be made. It's not like you're limping into that game. It's the first game of the season, and if you don't come out and set the tone in that game, I don't know what to tell you. Can you? Oh God, I don't even want to talk about this. There's plenty of summer to talk about this, but if you go out and lay an egg the first 2 or 3 drives, and they score at least once in that period, I would not be shocked if there's boos.
No,
but we'll talk about that in the summer because there's plenty of time to talk about all of that.
Something that's also intriguing, Duke. 2 straight years of having much more talent than the Blue Devils, and you can't get them. Doran can't get the players fired up.
I honestly, I don't know if they've got
double digits.
I don't know if we have necessarily more talent than them anymore. I think they've slowly built that. Manny Diaz is doing something. They've taken an approach where they're going to be serious about football. They've done a few things to the stadium. They've went out and I'm going to use the word bought because that's essentially what you're doing now is buying players, and that goes for us too. But they've made a significant investment, and that's probably a better way to say it, into their program. Manny, here's the thing that people don't understand. They're a private school. We don't know what their numbers look like because they don't have to really disclose anything. That school's got money. It may be a smaller fan base, and I get it. They have a bigger following, bigger brand for the basketball, but I feel like they're kind of someone that can compete. I don't, historically they've struggled, but I think they've still got resources.
Duke, anymore. I think they'll be a competitive triangle team.
Yeah.
We've
seen teams. Notre Dame, they're a private school. USC, private school. SMU, private school.
You said who'd you say it was a private school?
USC. Yeah.
Southern Cal.
I didn't realize that. I didn't know they were private.
Yeah.
Stanford private school, they've had some good years. I feel like every private school with the resources that they have, can make a big leap if they actually invest.
I don't want this to turn into an NIL pitch, but it just always feels like, we always come back to that because that is the world we live in.
It's important. That's important.
Although I will say this about Duke. We play Wake on a Thursday night beforehand, so we get more time to prepare for that.
Yeah. Get a couple extra days.
I will say, real quick, I did see that someone made a significant donation to Savage Wolves yesterday, so maybe that helps. So that was we need more of them. We need as the tweet went, we need more big dogs. Whether you like the current coaching staff or not, I think you throw every resource at it until you decide that it's the coach, right?
Yeah. Well, investing in NFL in NIL isn't really investing in the coach, though. It's investing in the players.
Correct. And that's the again.
That's how you got to look at it. And a lot of people don't. But I get it. But it's just going to be.
Well, a lot of people are chicken or egg, right? And you decide which one's the chicken and which one's the egg. Is it the NIL or is it the coach? Right. So they're not exclusively tied together or mutually tied together. It's probably the better way to say it. So look, if you're happy with being 2 in whatever we are in the conference, if you're happy with going 6-6, don't put the NIL on the coaches. I'm done with it. I'm just frustrated. So frustrated. How about baseball? Good preview last night. First one came out.
Yeah.
Episode 2 will come out tomorrow, from what I understand. We are 10 days away. 10 days away from opening day at the Doak. So that's exciting. We learned that it sounds like there may be a ring ceremony on opening day, which is exciting to see. They've already updated some of the wall information out in the outfield with all of the new current College World Series appearances and guys being drafted. So that's exciting. So yeah, 10 days. Softball starting up. I think softball starts like this week.
Yeah, softball starts a little bit earlier than baseball.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about them a lot. But I expect big things from Coach Leftwich and the ladies. She's slowly building her thing up over there. I think next year you'll see
classes.
Yeah, good recruiting classes. I think you'll see more of that coming in the next year or two. Hope to get over to a few games over there. But swimming and diving, I think, is kind of slowly winding down. Women's tennis has been really good.
Yeah.
Men's
Wrestling.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about wrestling.
We need to talk about
a couple of minutes.
12 in a row.
The
12.
match again. It's 12 in a row against Snobby.
This
one was a little bit more. Yeah, go ahead.
I got down to the last match. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I was keeping track, and in the last couple matches, when I saw it was close, I was like, okay, I better turn this on.
Yeah. Well, the Tar Heels got off to a big run, but
they won a couple close ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kai lost. Go ahead.
We were able to close it out. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think we won like 4 straight matches.
Yeah. Yeah, Fishback had a really good, solid match. Trumbull he was key to the whole run with this pin. That really got us within the striking distance. And then Robinson won the last match pretty decisively. That's just part of the strategy, right? So, for those that don't really follow wrestling, is the home team kind of sets the order of the matches so they can kind of get that tempo kind of get that momentum is probably a better way to say it. Yeah. And so they're gonna want to go out and set the tone early, and so they'll set a match in their favor that they think that they can either win or compete in. And it just kind of worked out. And then the referees can we talk about referees? But for them to call that stall, I was like, come on, bro, you just can't make that call in sudden death. That was just horrible. And then they had a late takedown in the other mat. I can't remember who it was. So they had a late takedown in that. And so it was closer for those 3 matches. Like, we should have probably won at least 2 out of those 3, and then it wouldn't have been as close. But, give Carolina some credit. Their coach, I don't even remember his name, but, he said he was coming in there to kind of set the tone and, change the way our wrestling program looks, and he's 0 for 2. So better luck next year, buddy.
Yeah. Shout out to Vince Robinson, named ACC Wrestler of the Week.
He was so good. That dude is so quick. Have you guys really watched him wrestle? Like, he's so fast.
His reflexes.
It's insane.
Fast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. I saw him after the pit match 2 weeks ago, and I just went up because you can talk to the guys after the match out in the I guess they call it the Great Hall or whatever. But I just told him, like, man, I just appreciate watching. Like, I really enjoy watching him for a guy that's in the lowest weight class. Those guys, like, you don't see like the big stuff, but he's just so quick. And I think that's what makes it him so fun to watch, is that he's like a cobra. He'll just strike and you're like, holy cow, like, what just happened? Like, I blinked, I missed it.
He was good. I closed it out for us.
Is he a freshman or a sophomore? I can't remember.
I want to say sophomore, but I don't remember seeing him much last year. So maybe a freshman.
I feel like he's a freshman. Go ahead, Carson. I'm going to look this up real quick if you want to.
Yeah. So another news, we also have Ice Pack taking back the Governor's Cup with a 4-1 win against UNC.
Yep.
That was big.
Those jerseys were sick.
That Raleigh script.
Oh yeah, the Raleigh cursive script was awesome.
Yeah.
And
it's funny, it's like, I think we just played Carolina last week and lost too, but we won the Governor's Cup.
Well, yeah, and that was the weird thing too.
They played like a ton of multiple times during the season, but there's only one Governor's Cup.
They play each other so many times.
They do, but it's interesting because right now they have the playoffs going on this weekend out in Winston-Salem, and we only have like 1 loss. And I'm like, how do you only have like 1 loss? Because I know we've lost to Carolina and we lost to Tech. So I guess maybe not every one of those games count as conference games. So that's what I'm.
Yeah, must not.
I'm not sure about. But yeah, they enter the playoffs as the 2 seed, with Penn State being the 1 seed this weekend for the Cup to advance to the Nationals. So you have to win this one to advance to Nationals. I think they only take the winner. I could be wrong about that, but yeah. So they'll be out in Winston-Salem this weekend. Yeah, to go back to Robinson, he is a true freshman. So,
dang.
Yeah, the wrestling school. Go ahead.
Big honor as a true freshman, named Wrestler of the Week.
Yeah, I mean we have a lot of young guys. He and Gil. Gil's a really good young wrestler as well. So I would imagine Robinson will probably go up in weight, or Gil. One of those two will go up in weight. I would assume next year, because you're going to lose. I think Kai is up in the next weight class. So you're gonna have a couple of holes to fill, but I think next year's gonna be a really good year for state wrestling. I think this year is still going to be good, but I think you'll see the next level stuff next year.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of, from what I've been hearing, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like you said, I mean, we're still a top 10 team, but it's a big year is kind of expected more next year. But.
Yeah. But I think you'll see some guys. I think you'll probably see 2 or 3 of these guys in ACC finals at the ACC wrestling tournament. I think you'll potentially see 2 or 3 of these guys competing for ACC titles in that final match. And then we have one more big match with Virginia Tech coming up, I think, in 2 weeks. I believe it's the weekend that the baseball team's down in Jacksonville. There's a lot going on that weekend too.
Yeah.
So we have wrestling with good grief. Wrestling with Virginia Tech. Women will play Notre Dame that weekend, and then state baseball will be down in a tournament in Florida. So that'll be a real big week here in a couple weeks. Is there anything else we've missed?
I think we've covered most of it. Oh, gymnastics. Came up short against Cal, but Cal's top 10 team, and you kept it within, I think, like
point and some change, or less than a point. I think maybe it was a little less than a point.
It was like 0.6.
Was it 0.6? Okay, yeah, that's pretty good then.
Yeah, I mean, gymnastics is one of those sports where, like, even if you lose but still have a lot of like great individual performances, like, it's not, you don't feel mad. You're just happy that you're just happy that the players did all these great performances. And so big shout out to them. ACC gymnastics is really tough right now because with the addition of Cal and Stanford. So
I think they had a sellout too, right? First in program history.
First sellout in program history. I think the bringing it to the Wicked night really helped with that. And plus you had a bunch of like Y guys with Y princesses there. It seems like a fun event.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be kind of creative, right? Nothing against the women's gymnastics team, but it's sometimes it's a hard sell to get people to come out. So I think if you can be kind of creative, and then that helps build a brand. You saw that with wrestling for a lot of years. Just talking to Chuck Coates, there was years where they would wrestle in front of less than 100 people. And now you're consistently 2,000-3,000 people, and then when you bring a Carolina or Virginia Tech into town, you're close to sellouts. So I think that's kind of the approach that the women's gymnastics is doing. And like, hey, the more eyeballs you get to see your sport compete in, the more people that get excited about it. And so now you get return customers, and then they tell a friend, and they tell a friend, and that's how you get to sellouts. So that's exciting stuff.
Yeah. Hopefully it only goes up from here. We need to see more sellouts for gymnastics.
Absolutely.
I know all of our gymnasts really feed off that energy. They love it.
Yeah, I think it's just, as you bring in these teams like Cal, right? So if you bring a team like Cal in, or Carolina will come over, and Clemson's really stepped up their gymnastics team. I think as the sport continues to grow, you'll start to see that result in the stands as well. You started seeing it with volleyball. Volleyball is starting to get really good crowds now. People love winners. People love teams that do really well. If it's an exciting product on a field, a court, people will come watch it.
They'll show up.
Yeah, they'll show up. Especially when you're talking pennies on the dollar for tickets. I think volleyball is like $10 or $12. I don't know what it costs to go to gymnastics, but I can't imagine it being any more than that same number. Anything for good value, people are all about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anything else to talk about?
Have we mentioned it's only 10 days to baseball? What do you got, Michael?
We can go back to men's basketball.
we talked about that for 25 minutes already.
That was 25 more. That was 24 and a half minutes more than we needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you want, so the upcoming week to that point, we have men's basketball. We'll do the West Coast swing tomorrow night, Wednesday and Saturday. And then you have women's basketball that they're off until Sunday, I believe, when they play Florida State. Again, we talked about it earlier. That schedule's not getting any easier between now and the end of February. And then I think I could have read it wrong, but I think the final home meet was either last weekend or it's this weekend for swimming and diving for both men and women. I think that's coming up.
I think aren't both the men and women ranked in the top 10 right now?
Yeah. I think one is 3 and the other is 6. I think women is 3 and men is 6. I could be wrong about that, but I thought that's what I saw. But definitely both top 10. I think women's tennis is top 10, right?
Yeah.
I think they're at number 10 or 9.
Men's tennis is lurking in the top 25 as well.
Yeah, they had a nice win against Michigan last week. So that was nice. Yeah. All the other sports are doing fine. Looking at you, men's basketball. We'll turn it around, just not this year.
Yeah.
I look.
You're so we thought last year.
You're so cute.
That's what we thought last year.
I honestly, as frustrating as the men's basketball is, I still wouldn't trade it for last year. There's just no way. If you told me that we would have the run we would have and then stink this year, I still would have taken. I'd still take it. I'd still take it. Not that I'm happy about it, but I'd still take it.
Yeah,
I'd rather get an ACC championship and a Final Four appearance than go 3 years of finishing 4th in the ACC and not doing anything.
Not doing anything in the tournament. Yeah.
First round exits. Yeah, I'm with you.
I think if you go back before last season and offer that, hey, this year you'll win an ACC title and go to the Final Four, but next year you may be one of the worst teams in the conference.
That's fair trade-off.
I don't see any state fan not taking that, but of course that's not the only options. But that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I think real quick, I think, and I wish I could have found. It was like an account that I don't really normally see, and somehow it ended up in my feed. But on Twitter or X, did anyone see like where our players rank nationally for the different position players? Like, did anyone see that as far as like our leading scorer or our rebounder?
They're low.
Yeah. I wish I kind of wish I had that, and because it paints the picture of why you're struggling and how you're struggling, and it's not good. I'll see if I can find it, and I should have retweeted it, but yeah. All right, let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think that's all we have tonight, Wolfpack Nation. But do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next live stream. So without further ado, go Pack.
Go Pack.